This is our interview with film and TV director and stunt coordinator America Young about best practices for working with a professional stunt team. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to cinema5d.com. My name is Graham Ehlers-Sheldon, and I am here with America Young. Hello, America.
Hello, how are you?
Not too bad. Just enjoying my inside time, as they say right now.
How's your apocalypse?
Oh, so far so good. Very low stress. Well, I want to talk a little bit about who you are first. You are a director. You're a stunt coordinator. As a director, you have an episode of Blind Spot coming up that you directed for NBC. And on the stunt side, just a couple of your credits here. I'll go down the list. This is both video games and series. Science of Mortal Kombat, Halo 5, The Order, Man in the High Castle, Call of Duty, Star Wars, The Old Republic, the game, True Blood for HBO, amongst many, many others. So I'm excited to
Thank
dive
you for
into
having
this.
me.
What can you just define what a stunt coordinator does exactly? Because I think everyone has different ideas about this.
Yeah, absolutely. A stunt coordinator reads a script, figures out what is considered a stunt or not, or what might be a stunt or not, goes over that with the director, finds out what the director's vision is, and then with working with the director helps execute that. So in the script, it might say falls to stories, and you say to the director, hey, that's a stunt. And then the director goes, no, 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 no. It's just a trip and fall onto the ground, right? And then it's like, okay, that's still kind of a stunt, but we don't need a stunt double. We can do it with a stunt pad. And so a stunt coordinator sounds expensive. They are expensive. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's the minimum is a SAG daily, no matter what the contract. You have to pay them the full amount. But ultimately, they can save you a lot of money because they can tell you how to shoot things that still looks dynamic and cool. It's still a stunt, but doesn't necessarily involve a stunt double and all this other rigs and stuff like that. So that's basically what the stunt coordinator does for the director. Is they help the director execute their vision in the coolest way possible, or the funniest way possible, or the saddest way possible, depending on what it is. For the producer, what the stunt coordinator does is they do it in the most safe way possible and in the most budgetary concerned way possible. So the stunt coordinator kind of goes between the two of them and then finds that perfect medium that gives the director their vision, but gives their producer their budget and their safety for insurance reasons, and also because human beings.
One of the things I think that's really interesting about the stunt department specifically is you guys are like the personification of production value in a way that not everyone can say they are. Do you know what I'm saying? You make it's all on screen. Do you know what I'm saying? Everything you guys do is on screen. Your department isn't encompassing of, the car rig that we're attaching to something. I don't know. That's just how I look at it.
I see what you're saying. Like everything that is created and built with the stunts is all on camera.
Yeah.
I never thought of that before.
Well, and if the goal of the producer is to, quote, put the budget on screen, you guys are a pretty good conduit for that.
That's the coolest way I've heard it described. Yeah, I like it. Thanks. I'm going to say that next time I say to a producer who's like, I don't know if it's worth it. I'm going to be like, well, actually.
So you're a director as well. And directing action, there's an art to it, but there's also sort of just nuts and bolts mechanics that you have to get right. Can you just talk about the process of directing an action sequence for the purposes of this thought experiment? Let's just say it's two people fighting in a room. There's a lot of things that go into this. There's camera side. I mean, the camera can help or hurt what you're doing, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. So can you just maybe walk us through just a general sequence and how you might approach it both directorially and then from the stunt coordinator perspective?
There's a bunch of different ways of shooting action, but the way that I have learned the best and the way that I have found is the most efficient is more like the Jackie Chan way of doing it, right? So you shoot one master of it, maybe two tops of the whole fight. And this is that you're dealing with two stunt people. I'm not even going to talk about swapping in and out of actors. You two stunt people doing a fight. You do one master of it tops. And then you just take it shot by shot by shot by shot so that you're getting the maximum perfect framing and action of each hit or each sequence of 3 or 4 hits so that it can edit together in the exact way. Because if you don't have an editor who necessarily knows action, that can be something that can be a hindrance because that is also its own special skill. But also, if you're just going to do the wide over and over and over again, you're never going to get it 100% right. And you don't want to be in the wide for a lot of that stuff unless you're dealing with really big, broad action with really exceptionally talented people.
Because you don't feel the impact in the wide as much.
That's where camera helps. Camera can take the hit, camera can bump it, camera can move the action around so that it feels more fluid. And so a cameraman knowing the movement as well as the people doing the choreography helps. And if you look at something like The Raid, I have rewatched so many of those fights because that camera guy is like sliding in between them and then over them and around. And then Extraction just came out. I don't know if you saw it on Netflix, and that was directed by a stunt coordinator, right? And the action is just like, you can't help but it's fake, but you're still like, oh, like he just did such a great job because he knows action so unbelievably well, and they had an incredible team.
Well, and I think a good action scene at its most basic level has individual story beats, even if they're not necessarily delineated in the script, right? It has a beginning, middle, and end. The different opponents have a certain level of energy and skill, and et cetera, et cetera. Could you maybe go into that, unpack that a little bit?
That's an excellent point, and that's where the director really comes into play. That's where you can tell a movie when the director was like, go make something cool, or if the director was like, okay, this is why this fight is important to the story. You know, Warrior, it's like the two brothers who are fighting in the UFC.
Yeah.
So it could be the cheesiest movie ever, but because of their incorporations of the fight to the character, the story is heart-wrenching. Right? So you have two brothers who end up facing each other in the final battle for the final title of the UFC. That's the premise of it. But they took their fight styles and they modeled their fight styles after who they are as people, right? So you've got the one brother who is big and strong and has had everything come easy to him. He's been athletic his entire life. He's always been the bigger guy. And his fight style is he walks into the ring and he punches someone out. The end. He has no idea about what it's like to have to work through something, right? And then you've got the other brother who has had to struggle his entire life. He was always small and scrappy and weak and has had to learn how to hold on. And so he learned more of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu holds, using people's strengths against them, but also like pushing through the pain and pushing through something tough, right? And that's their fight styles. So when the two of them go head to head at the final end, when the one who wins, you go, that's why he won.
And I mean, that is story and fight integrated well. We've all seen the disconnect from the audience POV when someone, a character that we've met for 30 minutes-ish, does something that is impossible in the world that you just spent 30 minutes building.
Man of Steel to me is a perfect example. How many people watched that movie in that final battle with Zod and just checked out, just could not care less, you know? And that's a perfect example. Like the fight moves that they were doing were really fun and creative. Like objectively, if you look at it, you're like, whoa, that's cool. And yeah, sure, if Superman and Zod were fighting, like that's what would happen. But you stop caring because it's no longer necessarily connected to character. It's just this long out, how cool can we blow things up?
Talk to me, America, about the line between the physicality of the actor and the stunt person. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're both in a way responsible for making a thing. You're making a performance together. How does that back and forth go? Is the stunt performer watching the actor during other scenes? Is it vice versa if the actor doesn't know how to fight at all? I mean, can you tell me just, again, sort of high level how that relationship works?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So it depends on the physicality of the actor. Some actors are more physically trained than others, but absolutely the stunt people will watch their actor. And they'll refer to it, they're like, that's my actor. Like there's a sense of pride and not possession, but relationship there. Well, they'll watch them. They'll see how they move. They'll see how they walk. They'll see how they shake their head and gestures, you know, because they want to do as good of a job as possible. The most important thing for an actor is not necessarily know how to fight, but know how to look like you know how to fight. Right? So like, it's always so disconcerting when you have this kick-ass fight with their stunt double, right? And then the actor runs off and he runs like somebody who's never run before.
I'm not knocking on Mr. Cruz here at all. In general, actors, I just want actors to do their stunts for the right reasons. I'm not, again, alluding to anything here with Tom Cruise. But I want that to come out of a place of maybe executing the story better. And I worry that sometimes it comes out of an ego-y place. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I for sure. I think we're constantly told in this industry that we're not enough, right? Oh, you're a director. Do you also write? Oh, you're an actor. Do you also do your own stunts? Do you also write? Do you also do voiceover? Do you also model? Right? Like one thing and being good at one thing isn't enough in this industry. And so I think it's very common for actors to, they'll be like, oh my God, you say to an actor, oh my God, that was such a phenomenal job. Those stunts were incredible. Did you do those too? And there's an ego thing where the actors want to say yes. So yes, I mean, I agree with you. If it's coming out of an ego place, then it's never a good place because that's never safe, especially when you're dealing with stunts. It should never be out of ego. But if it's coming out of a place of my person is an expert in weapons and specifically knives, and so I need to know how to flip this knife so it looks like I know what I'm doing, then yes, that's phenomenal. Or because you're an expert in knives, you're probably constantly fidgeting with knives. So I'm going to learn how to flip this knife as I'm talking to you without even thinking about it. So that ties directly into story.
Hmm.
That stuff is really cool,
Sure. You just have to learn to be comfortable in your own skin.
which is hard to tell anyone in this industry.
Oh my gosh, so hard. You're right. You're right. Easier said than done. So you alluded to this in terms of getting hurt. How important is safety to what you do? And then going a little bit further, you're one of the departments that has to say no in an environment that is wholly designed around the director, of which you are one as well, being like this sort of godlike, for lack of a better words, presence, right? You have to say no to the person that the entire industry is built around following the direction of this one person. Can you talk to me a little bit about safety?
Yeah, safety is the most important thing. And I was stunt coordinating on a movie a couple years ago where we did the stunts and those were all fine. But then the camera department didn't feel safe with the way that they were shooting something, and they had said something, but no one was listening. So they came to me, and then I was the one who ended up having to pull the plug, even though it technically had nothing to do. Technically, my purview is people in front of the camera, humans in the camera, basically. That's the purview, and any props that are involved in that, like I oversee it, but that's obviously I don't make those. And so
And
it,
technically, I guess the first AD should have been the one at that point to say no, maybe
yeah,
classically,
I,
but
I
you know.
classically, but I don't think they felt like they could because exactly what you just said. Right. Sometimes you have first ADs who take that responsibility very seriously. And then sometimes you have first ADs who feel like their first loyalty is to the director and getting the director's vision. So whenever I say no, I always have an alt. I always have something coming up. So if they say, can we do this? I'll always say, no, but you can do this. No, absolutely not. But this is what you can do.
That's great advice. That's such good advice. I hope people are listening to that.
And the other thing that I have found that has helped me a lot is admitting when I don't know something, and then figuring it out. So especially when it's stunts, you'd never lie about what you can do and can't do in knowledge. So if someone were to ask me a stunt thing, I would say, I actually have no idea. Let me go find out and let you know. And I don't have an ego about admitting that I don't know something. And I constantly am excited to learn more stuff. So that has also helped me. So those are my two things that I really lean on to keep me going.
I mean, that's just a good career lesson in general. I'm always very careful about staying. There's a dog in the background having a good time. I'm usually very careful about saying an absolute, you know what I mean, and die on a hill in the moment when I had no, like, I didn't, the necessary research wasn't there for me to make that decision. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, that's always something I try not to do, and I wish more people would just listen. So switching gears for a moment,
Yeah.
I think maybe some viewers, some readers of Cinema 5D might be interested. How do you find a stunt coordinator, just at a bare minimum, and then how do you know if you're getting the right stunt coordinator for you? You know what I mean? I think some people don't even know the right questions to ask. You know, like, oh, you do good punches. Okay, is this rate okay? You know.
That is the toughest question. And that is the fire that I've put out the most for people that I know. The first thing to look for is that they have years of experience. The trouble that I see a lot of people getting into is people have 2 stunt credits, but they're offering themselves up as a stunt coordinator. And it doesn't mean that they're not good at it, but it does mean that they don't have the experience. Usually means that they don't have the experience, the knowledge, and the connections to get the job done. Because it's about knowledge, it's about problem solving, it's about having seen it done enough times that you know all the things that could go wrong. and all the better ways to do it. But it's also about being able to call on a legion of stunt people, the best stunt people possible, to do your doubles, to know how to do know who to call for wire work, know who to call for pads, you have to have been in the industry for a while, and you have to have earned a certain level of respect within the industry of somebody who knows what they're doing. And so that's the first thing. I would always check out their IMDb page and see how many credits they have as a stunt person online. The other thing is I would hire someone who's not afraid to say no to you. So you can even test them. You can say, I have $5 and I would like to set someone on fire. If they say yes, do not hire them, because something will go terribly wrong. You need someone who's honest with you and says, look, can't do $5. I can do 1,000 minimum or whatever. That's not even the right number. Don't even quote me on that. But like you need somebody who is willing to work with you, who is willing to problem solve with you, but who will tell you no.
VFX people, you also want to be able to say, especially practical, you want them to be able to say no. I definitely had a moment where I had just seen Tropic Thunder and I had this huge explosion happening in this project. And I said, the beginning of Tropic Thunder, when the entire field explodes, I want it to be exactly that. And they said no to me in that key moment, and that was good. So the use of things in the environment in a fight. So I think Extraction, a movie you just brought up, does this very well. Is how do you, using weapons, using things in the environment as weapons, how do you make that safe? How do you, like, what are some of the things that you should think about? Are you working with the art department as a stunt coordinator? Yeah. And then how does that crossover sort of work? Can you walk me through that, America?
Yeah, absolutely. You figure out with the director what the props are. And once you figure out what the fight is, or what your budget is for what kind of props you can have, then you get together with your art department and you figure it out. So if they're going to crash into a table, then you make sure that the art department has the right kind of table. Either they make it of balsa wood or they pre-score it so it collapses very easily. I had somebody who was going to go down some stairs and I knew that they were going to carpet the stairs. So I asked them to add some padding under the carpet of the stairs rather than them having to hit all those hard corners. If you're dealing with a knife, like a switchblade or something, the art department will almost always, they usually know to do this, but it's always good for you to double check for safety reasons. There's usually a kit. So there's usually one that looks good for camera that is metal, that you can move around and makes the right noises and has the right weight. And then there's usually one that's foam, and that's usually the stunt one that you can stab with and actually do your fights with so no one's going to get hurt. And then there's one usually that has like a tube in it that can squirt out blood so that you can do your cutting effect. So that's usually what happens with weapons that already exist. If you're going to create weapons out of something that's in a kitchen, like a frying pan, it's a similar process. You figure out what your frying pan is that you're going to use, and then art department will make a stunt one that's foam, and then they'll make one that can be broken or shattered or whatever you need to happen. And then there's tricks within the fight that you do to help sell that, right? So there's this is a trick that you almost always see. If someone's going to smash someone with a frying pan, you almost always see them smash something on a counter with the frying pan so that you see that it's deadly. And then either in the same shot, they'll swap out for the foam one and hit the person so that you as an audience in your head have just seen that thing be lethal. Or they'll cut and then they'll swap it out. But you never, when you're actually in the actual fight, you never have the heavy object, the pointy object, the sharp object in the actual fight. There's a foam. There's usually a foam version of it.
Talk to me about the process of finding that choreography. We can use the sort of kitchen example, I think, because I think that's a good one. So there's a frying pan in the room. The script might say, picks up object, hits someone. I mean, they kind of run all over the place in terms of specificity. So how would you work with the director in, say, a kitchen environment to find that? Would you try to get him or her sort of in the room initially, walking around with maybe art, do like a fight scout? Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, you're usually there on the location scout so that you know what the space is you're working in, and you find out story points of where things might be. So there was recently a fight that I had to do in a kitchen, and originally we knew that the teacups had to be here because this other plot point, and we knew that the knives had to be here because of this plot point, and we knew, like they already knew that because of things that they already scripted, and so then you kind of figured it out from there. But that's also where you talk about things with your director, and you can bring in your actor if you want. You can say, is this person athletic? Is this person quick on their feet? Is this person the kind of person who would stumble upon a weapon and figure it out? Or is this the kind of person who can be scanning the room looking for something? And then asking those questions about the character and asking those questions about the story that they want to be told. If this is the beginning of the movie in which this person is learning how to defend themselves, then they're going to accidentally find weapons. They're going to back up against something and their hand's going to find something and then they're going to grab it. And this is the end of the movie, and their arc is the fact that they've learned how to be better and quicker on their feet. Then they're going to come into a room, scan it already. They're not going to have to scramble for the pun. They're going to know exactly where it is, grab it, whack. So a lot of that has to do with, that's why the director is so important in these moments. And there's been movies where I have friends who have coordinators who they haven't had that feedback from the director, and they fill in those holes themselves because they're really good at it. You know, that's why you're seeing more and more coordinators, I think, transitioning into directing, is because they've had to figure it out a lot of times on their own, you know. But having the director involved is amazing, because then you guys can come up with something even better than only one of you could have thought of.
Yeah, I think you're right that a lot of stunt coordinators are moving into the directing world. I think that partially maybe because of the understanding of motion and movement, because that seems to be the gap with most directors that I know that sort of come up only in film and television and don't have sort of a theater or performer background, is a lot of people sitting around tables, and there's a panic about doing scenes where people are moving and how they might, you know what I mean? And there's none of that. There's with stunt coordinators, the same way that VFX coordinators who move into directing as well, they're just not afraid of that. We're gonna move that wall later, and there's a dirigible over there, and you know.
Totally. Yeah. And coordinators are also usually good with dealing with humans as well, because they're very hands-on, right? So they're used to having to deal with their stunt people. They're used to having to deal with the actors and training them. And that's the other thing that I think is really helpful, is that you see some directors come in and they have these amazing visions in their head, but then they haven't necessarily learned how to communicate them. You know, how to talk to other people and how to express that to people. And I see so many coordinators who actually are amazing at it, because they know how to break the ice immediately and have conversations with every single type of person, because they have to work every day with every single department. And if they know how to do that really well, then I think that can transition them into directing really well.
Yeah, I think we're done with this sort of like auteur director writer sitting in the corner with the beret, like just yelling into him. You know what I mean? It's like it has to be more collaborative.
That's how you get the best stuff, right? You know, when you can walk up to someone and be like, what are you thinking? Because I'm thinking this, and would this work? And no, great. What do you got? You know, like that's where I think you get the best stuff.
100% agree. Well, America, unfortunately, we're out of time. I feel like I could go on talking to you much longer. Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point. But thank you so much for making this quarantine a little bit more fun and sharing some of your knowledge.
You're welcome. No problem. And to answer your one question in terms of finding the stunt coordinator, you can always ask me and I'll refer you to people.
Okay, great. That's easy too. Yeah. You're on. Can you just give everyone your social tags too, just so that, I mean, if you want to.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
So that's the best way to reach me. And so it's America_Young at both Twitter and Instagram. And if you're looking for a stunt coordinator, you can always reach out to me and I'll send you some awesome people.
All right, everybody. Stay tuned to cinema5d.com for more industry discussions. We're also right in the middle of our virtual trade show going on right now. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll talk to everyone later. Bye, guys.